This is us, yes. Welcome back to Footy and Friends. Brettles, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, not bad. I've had a busy weekend.
Yeah.
Just kids' sport and different things on, but relaxed a little bit yesterday. I had my 12-year wedding anniversary, would you believe, on Saturday.
What'd you get, Katie?
A kiss.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Because it's not because
It's not a
invoices
milestone.
haven't hit for this month, so he's a bit short on cash.
Yeah.
It's a bit short.
Should we talk, actually, before we introduce our esteemed guest, should we talk about last week, what happened, Mick, with the
yeah. So we had, we did.
Maybe explain it to Jake.
So and we have got Jake King here.
Who's the fucking? It's going to be the biggest show I've ever done.
There's going to be a bit come our way in the next 45 minutes. So last week we did a first episode. I can't even remember what it was on.
Neither. It was on just. It was a good ep though. I think we're doing the review of the something. Whatever
First
it was.
ep. Anyway,
trade period.
Yeah, trade period happened. Push that to the side. We'll hang around for a second episode.
And I said, so, Jake, just so, and I'm sure you don't give an absolute shit about this, which is so fine, but I'm obsessed with players and their numbers. So, like, fitting the right player into the right number. So, for example, the obvious one is Sean Darcy plays for Fremantle. He wears a number 4. He's a ruckman. I don't think he should be wearing the number 4. So there's some similarities there that I don't like.
So Jake's not overly interested.
He doesn't
in it,
care about that.
But neither is Brett. So we hung around for an extra 45 minutes to do a whole episode on jumper numbers, didn't we, Brett?
Yeah, we did.
The next
he
day,
said he was keen,
we did it under some sufferance. The next day we pop on the social media streams to see the episode had come out, but it was with Mac and Moff.
I redid the episode because it was so bad. Brett gave me nothing, and guess what? As you know,
Hit the cutting floor.
He still messaged me and he goes, "Just so you know, I'll be invoicing for 2 episodes."
Well,
It's my time. Is that not all right or what?
Can I touch base on two things?
Please
Yes.
do.
One, I thought after all this time, Brady would have actually shouted me a coffee.
No,
It's good
never.
to see nothing has changed.
Nothing's
You're still
changed.
a tight ass.
Nothing's
So I went and got
changed.
my own.
Yeah.
And just on your number thing, Dimmer actually did that at the club. So I wore 46 when I got drafted, and I had an option of 45, 46, and I said, "Well, mate, give me 46. It's the highest number."
One with a yellow sash will do.
So, yeah. And then Dimmer come along and said, "Right, we want all these players to go into lower numbers." I don't know whether he got it from Gridiron or where he got it from.
Hawthorne used to do it.
So then he grabbed me and said, "Mate, you're getting your numbers too high." I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Mate, you tell me every week I'm not getting a game, so does it really matter whether it's too high?" And then I remember he turned around and said, "Nah, we're getting lower numbers." So there was an option, 13 was available, and I said, "Can I have that?" And he goes, "Nah, Ricky Petto." Then they turned around and they said, I think it was 19, 20, 22?
Yeah.
22, anyone who wore that at that club got delisted in 12 months. So
Not
no one-
19 was the same.
Yeah, no one wanted him. So I remember 28 was available, and I had my brothers that were playing local footy. My stepdad all wore 28. I thought, you know what? Do I want to be a dickhead like them or not? And I thought, yep, I'll go and ask for it. And I remember Dimmer turned around and said, "Nah, it's still too high." I said, "No, please." And then the funny thing was Nathan Brown retired. And Brownie was 7. I walked up, I said, "Dimmer." I said, "Beautiful." I said, "Can I have number 7? He just looked at me and went, "You're not that fucking good." I'm like,
What number did you end up with?
28.
Yeah.
It was 28 or nothing. So he said, "No."
Oh my God!
So who went into the 7? Do you remember?
Matty D.
Oh, Matty D.
Oh,
went in.
Matty D went into the 7. Oh, he's a great player, but do you reckon you're much better than he was? Much better than you?
Oh, I guess I was a liability at stages. So, but nah. It was,
One of the all-time
fantastic.
humans, Matty D.
Yeah, great guy.
Ripping dude.
He went to the Essendon.
He went to
top
Essendon.
up.
Yeah, he
for
did.
the top up team. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were very loyal to the 46. So in your own mind, you wanted to stay in the 46.
for me, it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
It was a number was a number. It was the first number I got. So just
It seemed like your whole pre-season heading into the next season was occupied by going to Dimmer's office and figuring out which number you were going to wear.
That's so fucking good. I didn't realise Dimmer was so into his numbers, but I have noticed that a lot with Richmond back in the day. We've spoken about this a lot back in your boys' day, that a lot of even the high draft picks would start out high and then they'd eventually come in low.
Yeah.
Only with Dimmer. That
Only
wasn't
with Dimmer.
with Plough when he was there.
Yeah.
It was just whatever was available.
Hey, we've got one of the absolute greats, and we can't thank you enough, Jakey, for coming in today, mate. I've got a funny story off the top, actually, that could be not funny at all, but just a memory from you and I. I actually debuted against the Tigers, and it was on a Friday night, and I was an emergency, but It was back in the day. I don't know if this ever happened to you as well, where you're an emergency, but you know you're playing, but they think that it's going to rattle them that I'm coming in as the emergency. They go, oh shit, we've got to change the whole game plan because this kid that's never fucking debuted is coming in.
Dyl, with all due respect, it's probably not about you coming in.
It was
probably about
going
Mark
out.
Murphy not playing.
Yeah, I think it was Cruz that was coming out, something like that. Anyway.
So maybe.
No, you know what? You've got a point.
Small for a tool.
You've got a point.
Yeah.
And anyway, I'm going in. I know I'm playing. You prepare like it had been like my first night. Got my played, so I'm walking up the street. I was living in Fairfield at the time, bouncing my footy, just looking around, going. Everyone knows I'm in emergency tonight, that I'm probably going to play. You know, trying to play. And I walked into Tasty Rooster down there in Fairfield. Did you live around that area?
Yeah, I did.
And anyway, I'm going in there because I used to make up some white bread rolls with some roast chicken. Just nice, just carb up, but also feel good about yourself. And I'm walking in, this bloke cuts in front of me, and I was like, fucking hell. This bloke know I'm fucking emergency tonight. Like, mate, relax. Okay, so I'm like, look, I'll let you through because I'm about to kill some people tonight. Walk in. It was Jake King.
What?
He'd beat me into the line to get my tasty rooster. Fast forward 3 hours, I walk out and I'm lining up on him. Amazing.
Did you know who it was him that you cut in front of?
No idea.
No idea. Probably thought it was some 17-year-old kid getting dinner for mum and dad.
His haircut would have looked like a 17-year-old, that's for sure.
Mate, how do you sort of recall the career? I want to go back to the start, playing at like, how did it actually happen?
Can I jump in?
Yeah, you jump in.
Where, like, one of your first training sessions down at Vic Park, I reckon it was. Was that one of your first training sessions?
With you boys, it would have been.
Yeah. And you had this bloke had the mohawk, it was proper David Beckham with the blonde little tip at the bottom, and he come down to play. I was playing the forward line. He's come down the back pocket. I was like, this little bloke, seriously.
Here we go.
He's like, how disrespectful is this? Like, bringing this little fella to come down and play on me.
Little train on, was it?
Yeah, little train on from Coburg. Bang! He's giving me one straight away. He goes, I was like, righto, we're on for a game here, and and then that was Vic Park, I reckon, one of those really long 2-hour sessions. But you were trying out for just a
rookie spot.
A rookie spot, and ultimately got it because he was just like strongest little bugger that we'd ever had on the list, pretty much, and shaking blokes off, tackling, chasing, belting blokes. And I was like, I reckon we've got a player here.
Well, it was interesting when I went down to Coburg. So I actually did
from North Heidelberg.
No, so I started at North, won a granny. I missed probably about 13, 14 games that year through suspension. So it was not a great year.
Was that the limit? The limit was 16, and then you get.
No, that come in later.
Okay.
Had that have come in earlier, I would never have played. So
had an anger issue, didn't you?
Misunderstood, Brett. Yeah, very misunderstood.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because you had Kevin Sheedy was actually down at the game watching my brother and two young kids, Harley Ryan and Blake Holmes. Now, Blake and Harley, between the two of them, I think, had 3 possessions. My brother did all right, and I got best on ground. So Sheedy rang me, and I hung up on him about 3 or 4 times. I thought it was just a mate taking a piss. And then eventually a bloke rang me and said, mate, Kevin's trying to call you. I said, who the fuck is Kevin? And then went through it all. Ended up down at Essendon. Did a pre-season there. And then Sheeds actually said, look, you've one of the talented players down here, but you're turning 22 at the time and you got bad temper. So we're not going to waste our time. So I left. And then halfway through the year, I got a phone call from Kevin again saying, why weren't I playing VFL or something like that? And I said, mate, you told me, bad temper, 22, go. And he actually rang and said, if you go and play VFL without getting reported and without missing any games, he goes, I will draft you as a rookie. So Andrew Collins organised to go down to Coburg because he was coaching at the time. And then when I went down there, I ended up getting through the whole year, won the BNF. And it was funny because I ended up training with these boys at Richmond because they were affiliated, and that's where that come about because that game, I remember I had to play on Brady and Richard Tambling. And it was funny, I misheard. So at one point, because I got told go out and just rough them up and get into them. But it was just Richard. So, but I didn't listen to that part, and I just did a 10-1 who I was playing on. So, which didn't come off all that well because the boys looked and went, well, who's this cockhead?
And that doesn't surprise me that Brett was the
target.
Well, he's not the target.
Yeah.
So it was.
Because I was tough. That's why.
Yeah.
They said don't rough him up. He's pretty tough.
It's not the quarterback.
Kevin Sheedy was the first one to actually. Yeah.
Sheed was the first one. And then I was working when the draft come about. And I remember the day before, Greg Miller and Plough sat down with them and they said, mate, we're not going to draft you. Bad temper, turning 23. Just no chance. Not going to waste our time. And then Sheeds rang me and said, beautiful, we got pick 25 in the pre-season draft. Don't care who's available, we're picking you. And then pick 24 come about and my name gets called out. And it was bizarre because Greg rang me and said, congratulations. I remember going into the club the next day and said to Plough and Greg, we said, bad temper. And they go, we actually want some aggression. So I said, mate, it doesn't make any sense. I said, I'm a simple person, but fuck you, you're confusing me. And then I remember leaving that room and I grabbed Greg, who I'd spoken to him a few times, and actually said to him, mate, what's the go? I said, I'm on 130 grand as a plumber. I've been working quite some time, qualified. I said, you've offered me a $28,000 contract. I said, I'm not coming here on a lie. So you either tell me what's going on. I said, mate, I'm happy just to go back and work. And he's turned around and said, mate, we went through to this draft thinking there was 5 kids we wanted to pick from and got to pick 24. And all 5 had been drafted, so we didn't know who else to pick. So we thought we'd pay you 28 grand and you can play in the VFL for the rest of the year. I was like, okay, fair enough. I said, well, honesty's there. And then the first 12 months, I was actually working and playing footy.
Really?
Just to pay the bills.
You got drafted as a backman.
Yep.
Yeah. And how quickly did it? Talk to us about, because you end up playing as a forward for a lot of your career.
Under Dimmer more so as a forward.
So
Did that
believe it or
change
not, I got drafted. I was playing centre half back. I remember when I got drafted, my first game.
Big centre half back.
Yeah, VFL.
Couple of body
I played
spoils.
on Santana Helpin, Digby Burrell, and then was it Chris Bryant?
Yeah, big left footer.
So they were my 3 opponents. They were all ruckman, and
This is a confusing career, isn't it?
So that was where I first started. Then it went to back pocket. Then back pocket went to midfield, more of a tagging role, and then midfield when Dimmer came there. I think the whole dynamics of the game changed, where it was more your forward aggressive, your aggressive smaller blokes down back locking on, to then flipping that around, going, well, if we lock it in the forward line and put the pressure on there. And I think Clarko Dimmer more so started that, and then he moved down forward, and then it was more lock-away role. So I'd generally go and pick up whoever the best backman was, or running backman. I'd go and pick up them, and also try and man up my bloke at the same time. So it was a fucking night. So,
what was the first couple of years? As you said, you come from local footy, working as a plumber, successful plumber, earn 130 grand a year, to then take a rookie contract. Was it conflicting, or was it just like, what the fuck am I doing?
So it was when I was naive. I was like everyone. I thought there was a zero missing off the contract.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, start 280. It's about right. These blokes are on squillions. But that was a bit odd. But the first
I'll start there.
Yeah, a bit naive. But the first 12 months, it was a bit surreal. Everything. I was more in awe of these boys I was playing with. So to sit there and say that. The money was one thing, definitely, because it's hard going from earning normal money to 28 grand. Like, you can't pay the bills. So that was a challenge within itself. But then it was more every day I'd go into the club and like meeting him, and I'm not saying because he's here because he'll cop it in another way, but meeting him, you'd then go meet Richo, meet Brownie, Kane Johnson, Simo, meeting all these blokes that you see on the footy field run around, and then being able to run us alongside with them. It took me probably about 6 years, I reckon, before I felt like I deserved to be there. So every one of them I'd look alongside and it's like, well, he can kick, he can run, he can mark. And then I'd stay back and do extra work, extra training. And it was funny, you'd stay back and you'd say, right, don't kick the ball. So then you're boxing, and if it's not boxing, I'd try and swim. I couldn't swim.
Mate,
So
one of
that
the worst swimmers I've ever seen. He could not swim.
That was not fun. Swimming.
And I'm a putrid swimmer, and he could have been laps behind me. He made me look like Thorpe.
That doesn't strike me as kind of someone that
Nah,
drives through
mate.
the water.
Well,
He's swimming like a brick.
we get told boys would have to do a 500-metre swim. They'd say, just get over there and swim until the last bike gets out.
So your mindset was very much, you'd scrapped and clawed to get the opportunity, and you came in, and you were going to do it all through effort, off the back of feeling as if you didn't have the talent to go with them.
Yeah, well, it was also difficult as well because I got drafted, and it's still odd you see him. So I retired over 10 years ago. But then I got drafted with Jack Rewalt. Yeah. Next year was Koch. Next year was Dustin. So that were my first 3 years of AFL.
And Rancy's in there as well.
Rancy's in there. Shane Edwards was in there. Dave Asprey, Dylan Grimes. So they were my draft. But then I was 23, they're 18. So already there's a gap within itself there. And then you think of players who are 23 or so, which being Brett and those boys, you've got that group already mixed in at a footy club. But then it's funny, I'd go to these 1 to 3 year old meetings and they're sitting down telling you how if you get some money, you got to spend this. I'm like, oh, fuck, I can't do this.
That's what I run nowadays, Jackie. So I'll bring you in for...
So it was just one of them things that I'd lived life a little bit, but it was all finding your spot and trying to fit in. But then the best way to do that, reality, is get a kick.
It's funny you say that. Like, even on a side note here, it's a funny thing when you, just regardless of the podcast, but you were 23 years age when you came in, but you're so far ahead of what any 23-year-old in the AFL system is in life. Like, I don't think people realise that, like how much. Obviously, playing football from 18 is incredible, but it does set you back a little bit of just those fundamental
life experience.
Yeah, life experience.
Yep.
Like when you leave, I left at 27. I had to learn that shit then, so it is quite hard. It's a good point you make about how you were like so much further ahead of a lot of those guys. Back to before, you were talking about how it took you 6 years to sort of feel like you were in the system, but there was obviously something that Jake was bringing where you bought. You know, he had something that a lot of you didn't. Like, could you identify that? Were you all just like, this is why he's here? But then it took him.
He's one of the toughest pricks I've played with.
Yeah.
And I think, how about your nickname came about? And the Push-Up King was we were on the remember that training camp with the Soggies down at we started down in the Dandenongs and then had to go all the way up to over to Anglesea, and it was a push-up challenge to see how many you could do. Now, it started out with, like, boys just, like, trying to do full range. Greg Tivendale, huge chest, like, pretty solid bloke, got 50, and everyone was like, whoa, 50, how good's this? You know, that's awesome. Pump out 40 or something. It's just, but you blow up because this bloke, 307. Like, just...
There was vision of it, isn't there?
Yeah, but he's looking at the camera just, like, laughing at him, just like, oh, I'm just going to keep fucking doing this. Oh, I love it. In madness, but just kept going to the point. It's just like, I'm going to prove a point here. Now, I'm not sure how many chest to grounds there were. He's only got little arms.
Yeah,
but
short
307.
The more impressive part I felt was we did chin-ups before.
Yeah.
So the chin-ups, we had to go down. They'd grab our legs when we did a chin-up over the bar and then go down.
Full hang,
and they'd grab your legs so you couldn't swing. So I did 46 chin-ups.
For your number.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Just trying to keep it. So, but we did that, and then the push-ups, and I couldn't fucking move my arms for 2 days.
It was one of the hardest camps I've ever done.
So it wasn't fun.
Did you do the abseiling as well? We went to the Grampians after it down to the Halls Gap, and there's this big wall called Taipan Wall. It's like 150 metre, but we had to abseil down, and you're looking down there, and you're just like, there's no chance I'm doing this. I'm seeing one of the toughest blokes I've played with shitting his pants, basically. Like, nah, I don't think this is for me.
They wanted us to run jump. They trust us. I'm like, you've been cockheads all week, and now you want us to trust you run and jump off a wall. Yeah, no worries. So, not ideal.
Hey, we had Uzi in here a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that when he first got in there, he goes, I can't believe the runway show it was, and he spoke about Brownie and Pets, and he goes, and you were sitting there at number 3, and what was your initial initiation when you come in terms of dress sense, how the boys treated you, and all that sort of stuff?
I guess the first one was Richo. I still laugh. He introduces himself every time. Hi, I'm Matthew Richardson, as if people don't fucking know.
He does that in every MC event too. He goes, in case you've been living on Mars, I'm Matthew Richardson. Come on, big fella.
He was the first one. And I remember I rocked up and he had denim on denim. I don't know whether he was doing something weird, going somewhere.
Dress up party.
Dress up, fucked if I know, but you've seen a bloke 6'5", denim on denim. It's just not right. So, and he had his hair all nicely slick, so he was a bit odd. Nathan Brown was probably the most arrogant one out of them all, by far.
Yeah. Probably by far.
So, and that was if you just listened to him talk, he could tell you that he was the best, and the way he dressed and the way he did things and his swagger, and then he'd actually waddle even more and strut off even more if he had a good gag, and he's the most arrogant one by far. Pets was not far behind him. And I don't know if Pets had the right to be, but he wore it, so...
He did end up in the 13 as well.
Yeah, so...
No, not Ricky Pettard, Kane Pettiford.
No,
he was
Kane
in the
Pettiford,
15.
15, sorry.
And then I reckon probably Brady was...
Rainsy before me, surely. Did you play with Rainsy?
I was with Rainsy, but Rainsy was injured. So I think his ego was a bit flat. I think you stepped up. So,
I stepped up, the 3 and the 4,
Yeah. So it was a very confident, arrogant team, right, in the way that they presented and looked, but yet didn't really win a game.
So, kind of loitered around the middle part of the table.
Yeah. So, but when you get to know them, it was actually some of the funniest things you'd hear. And I guess every club has it, the locker room talk and the banter. But I'd rock up and, man, half the shit these boys said to one another, you did that where I come from. You're not walking out of there. So, but they just go too far.
Who was your favourites?
Brownie was always one that would just... I used to like the dry humour. So Brownie was really good, make comments that were just...
Nasty humour.
He wouldn't be too far behind every now and then.
I learnt from him,
And it was funny because if you pissed him off, it become more spiteful, more nasty.
He doesn't like he doesn't like it, does he? He doesn't like it a lot.
We sometimes go too far, but would make it even more funny. So
get on the front foot. I've always thought.
So they were good, and then the other ones, boys, just being clowns. Where you had Rant, Ranty being a dickhead most of the times, but it got to a point. Like I was saying, there was men and there was boys, and throughout the whole lot, it was hard to separate, but you just enjoyed it every day.
When did it start clicking for you? So you said 6 years before, but because you did come into somewhat of a play that was very consistent in the team, and in 2009 there was that big decision with Plough. Like, what led up to you being
sledgehammer?
Firstly, I want to definitely get into that, but like, what made you then feel like, hey, I'm a part of this now, I can continue? Who backed you in to get there, or was it just an evolution?
I had 8 one-year contracts, which was played 8 years, and every year it was 1 year. So I did ask for a 2-year contract. What people don't know, with football and with life in general, so I wanted to buy a house. The hard part is you have a 1-year contract, go to a bank. You know, it doesn't matter whether you're on 3, 4, 500 grand, you're not getting a house, right? So that was always very difficult because that was on the back of my mind every single time you get a 1-year contract. And you'd see some players get 2-3 year deals, and you'd be sitting there going, well, hang on, why don't I get 1 year? Go and have a conversation. And I heard the same thing every year, that I was a liability. Yet, yes, you could do this, but also you're a liability, and we didn't know whether you're going to fuck up or not. So, and it's bizarre. Every time that you'd be accused, judged, or they'd have that conversation, for me, it had fire in the belly and made me push more, because it just meant that, right, I couldn't be complacent. And I think that probably did help a little bit, because I was hungry for it every single year, every game. I generally went out every game no matter what and thought we could win. So for me, the hunger was there. Even
serious?
Every single game. So I had a mentality that, and I guess we played Collingwood when they were going well back in, I think it was my 2nd or 3rd year there, but we beat them. So the mindset was, well, if we can beat them, we can beat someone else. We'd play Hawthorn when they were winning flags, we'd beat them. So there was clubs that we were beating that I actually thought, well, if we can beat them, all we need to do is have him on his off game, him on his off game. If we play our game, every game, I generally thought that we could win.
Under Dimmer, I was more that way. Not so much under Plough. I thought we were a bit of a basket case.
Oh, definitely were, 100%. But I guess...
How bad would, like, what do you mean basket case? Just everything, like,
And
no
what
cohesion
year did he
anywhere.
finish?
Yeah.
09. Yeah, halfway through 09. Yeah. Oh, we just, mate, it's...
There was no game plan with Plough. Easiest way...
Go out and
right,
have fun.
If we're playing Carlton, this is how Carlton played. Let's try and stop them.
Well, unless they make the late change.
So
Unless they bring the rookie. Yeah,
That's it.
And that would
So,
fuck us. That would have absolutely...
we're rattled. So, well, this is what I found. Brady might think different, but I found that Plough didn't have the game plan. It was always oppo analysis, oppo, and work out what the opposition's doing, and then try and prevent them from doing that for us to then win.
Yeah.
But there was no ball in one way, out the other. There was no go through the middle. It was pretty much just hold on to the ball, just chip it around, kick it around, and that was it. So I found that was really hard. And then you had probably, I reckon we had some of the best players in the comp playing with no structure. And then when you look at it, they were trying to win the game off their own boot, which some would think would be selfish, but it's not selfish. They're thinking they're trying to do the right thing by the team. So, but in saying that, it wasn't working together. Is that fair enough in saying, you reckon?
Yeah. I always found that Plough was a great game day coach in terms of seeing what was happening in the game, being able to move some magnets and get the game back on his terms. Whereas Dimmer was all structure through the week, train this. This will give us consistency, and that's where, like you said, in one way, you knew what you could do with the ball every single passage of play. Pretty much, you knew where the ball should be moving and how we'd set up and work together. So, yeah, I mean, as you said, some pretty good players, Simo. Richo, Bowdo, Kane Johnson, Chrissy Newman, Nathan Brown, great players all collectively playing, but not playing together collectively, which made it really, really challenging.
What was the game you were speaking before we came on about your rivalry with certain teams when you got out there? But there was a game, I think it was against.
It was 09, yeah,
where the jumper was fully.
Is this Plough? Is this
ripped.
the last year of Plough? Yeah.
Well, I reckon Plough might have even been gone by then.
When was it?
I reckon it was late 09.
And I'm picturing jumper fully ripped.
Yeah, so you were playing on Didac.
Yeah.
And you were into him all day. But you and Dids probably had a little bit of beef prior to that.
Well, there was a couple of things prior. I just hated Collingwood. And so I loved playing them, but hated the players there I didn't want to be anyone's friend. I didn't want anyone coming up, talking, having a chat. So
this actually reminds me of Tasty Rooster pre the game. I was sort of trying to have a bit of a chat, and he just I wasn't fucking having a bar of it.
No, I just didn't want to be. And then playing Collingwood, they had the fans, they had everything there, and I just wanted any opportunity to hurt someone. I just wanted to hurt them. I remember that game that we were playing. We were down by 10 goals or something,
Getting smacked,
and it was happening week after week, and I just thought, fuck it. So the old mentality of North Heidelberg, it was like, right, if we're not going to win the game, we're going to win the fight. So we're going to have a crack here. So I remember ball was not even near us. It was probably down.
No, you had it.
End.
No, you got a free kick.
The original. So I ended up whacking him behind play. This is where the free kick come from with Didac. So he mouthed off. There was an incident that happened which I can't say. Right, but there was some off-field shit that happened involving him and someone I know. Okay. So then I brought that onto the field and kept going and going and going. And then he made a comment that you just don't do. So I ended up just whacking him. He buckled, went over, and the umpire was 3 metres away. So I got reported for. I got 3 weeks for that hit. And then that's when he got the free kick, and I remember I was on the mark, and I don't remember which players it was, but the Collingwood boys were lining up beside me, and you could see it clear.
Swanee, Ben Johnson.
Was it? Yeah. Because he was a left footer, and he said play on, and they're just going to go. So then I watched the umpire. The umpire, as soon as his arms went up, I took off and got the leg up. But the ball fell. I just remember the ball fell out of his arms. and I was on the ground that fell in my arms, and I looked up and just went, oh, fuck. It just covered up straight away, just knew.
You got swamped, didn't you?
And then I remember it was Tarkin Lockyer was one of the first. I ended up wrapping my arm around his jumper because they were all trying to hit me, so I just pulled his face right onto my face, said, you can fucking cop it. He was just getting hit left, right and centre. So and then I remember getting up and then I thought, well, I'm gone now. So I ended up punching him a couple of times and got up and went, right, fuck's happened here. And it was just, it was all on for young and old.
What'd you end up with for the three games or more?
Yeah, so I got reported 3 times. I got reported for striking twice, and then I got reported for a melee. Yeah. So the first one was hitting Didac. So apparently they said I cracked his rib or something. So I said, yep, well, I hit it. And the footage showed it. So I said, yep, that one's done. The second one, they said you hit him, which was bizarre because apparently I hit someone before the melee. And I remember in the tribunal, they fucked it up. So because of the way they did it, I got off the second one because the second one was actually hitting Tarkin Lockyer. And that one was clear as day, but they said it was before it, so it didn't show up. And then the melee itself, I got fined $5,000 for being involved in that because I was at the point where any melee I was in now, it was $5,000.
And the banks are still going through your statements to try and get this house.
Yeah. So it wasn't great. But the best part was, and I'll tell you this part next, with this melee, I remember at the tribunal they said, oh, you're involved in the melee. And I said, can you tell me what the definition of getting involved in a melee and explain that? And they said, yep. So it's when 2 people have an altercation, a third person then enters. I said, well, can you tell me where I fucking enter this fella? It looks like it's shit kicked out of me. And I remember the chairman said, no, you're actually right. So, and I got let off, and then Brett got let off straight after it, and the boys ended up with about an $80,000 fine. So amongst the whole playing group, they paid $80,000. But the best part was when Dimmer got to the club, this actually didn't get put down pen on paper. It was just him making a verbal, but any melee I get in, the boys had to split it and pay for the melee. So it was like every time I'd get in a push and shove or a fight, I'd grab the third one and fucking bring him in because then it's classed as a melee. So
Brett, I can't imagine that. I can't imagine Brett wanting to fork out for any of that.
He didn't like any of it.
Yeah.
Freddie would dispute it all.
I did, no, because I was there. I was there, the first one in to try and get all these blokes are on top of him.
Brett's like, break it up!
And he must
break it up!
Hey, let's get it! Cost us a fortune!
guys!
But he's like, I had Swanee here and I think Ben Johnson like that, and I'm just like trying to throw haymakers over the top, and he's got me by the hair, and he's throwing big haymakers. I said, I can't even see.
I'd love to get that vision.
Because his eyes were closed.
You can see it.
Must have walked a lot taller knowing Brett was going to come in from the bleachers.
At least you know when you go into a big punch on, you had Brett to come and help you out.
Definitely. Definitely. Come and help me pay me fine. He's got the money.
Oh, God. Mate, can you tell us about the story? Brett, you take it from here around the plough. I don't actually know the story around the...
Well, that was when I say it was like we weren't going great. I think 09, I reckon we were zipping something, or we might have won round 1 and then...
2 games.
Yeah. And then
for the whole year,
was just, and I wasn't completely aware of it, but there was a lot of turbulence going on underneath with the connection between Coburg and the boys that were in the 2s versus where... and Newey was captain. Was he first year captain? I reckon he was first year captain.
So, yeah.
And him and Jake were talking a lot. I think you might have been in and out of the senior team, were you? Or you were really well connected with all the Coburg boys, and they just weren't feeling any... Like the club wasn't pulling together, and we were obviously losing, so something needed to change. And, yeah, I reckon I wasn't in the meeting as such, but Jake was. And...
So I've actually never spoken about this part, but I'm happy to, no issues. So originally it was more or less just you had a leadership group, you had the younger kids at Coburg. There was a few things that had happened. It happened on 2 occasions. 2 players got told they were playing on the Monday. Parents flew in, come the Friday in the captain's run. Players all then got told, no, you're not playing now. And then there was an injured player who was available, so they picked them. Right, so it got announced that a player was playing. It went in the media, he was in the papers, he was in all the rest of it, and then kid doesn't get a game. Goes, plays at Coburg that weekend, and it was gutted, plays shithouse, and copped an absolute baking in front of everyone, which was that was rare. That was like player wouldn't actually come down, be yelling at any of the twos players or anything like that. I used to go and watch them a fair bit, and then it happened a few times. Then there was more things going on with the board. So the board had issues with Plough and a few things going on there. There was leadership meetings that were happening away from the club that I actually wasn't involved in. That was the leadership group and other people.
I was in them.
You were in?
Yeah.
So there was more going on there. And then it was bizarre because I'd had a chat with Plough, and Plough would... That year, I still remember... So I remember I'd got injured in my second year and missed a fair few games, and it was my hamstring that kept going. So in the third year, I remember starting, and we had Rainsy, Geordie McMahon and Alex Rance. And I remember talking to Plough saying, right, well, I want to know where are we playing, what do you think, and all the rest. And then he just turned and said, mate, you're not going to get a game while these three are playing. So I said, okay. I said, is there a reason why? And he goes, yep. He goes, I don't want all three of you in the same team. It's okay. So I ended up going to Coburg for the first 3 games. Ended up getting best on ground 3 games in a row. And then I remember Rainsy did his knee, so he actually blew his knee out. Rancy injured himself, and then Geordie McMahon, I think it was about round 4, just got dropped. And I remember going up to Plough. I said, well, can I have a game now? And he goes, no. I said, why? And he goes, mate, I just don't think you're good enough to play in this team, and you won't be playing in it whilst I'm coaching. I said, well, that's pretty fucked up. And then told him what I thought, and the words that come out, there's some words that are probably you don't say, but they were said. And then I remember the younger boys kept getting treated worse, and then there was the older boys kept having meetings away from the club, and then the board members were coming in, and I remember this one night, and I was back training. I used to box a lot with Sam Solomon at the club, so I was back training with him. And Chris come back so he went home from training and then come back, and he was fucking pacing up and down non-stop, and then ended up giving me the shit. So I've turned around and said, man, what the fuck are you doing? He goes, I've got a meeting with Plough. I said, why? And he goes, the board's asked me to talk to him about handing in his resignation. And I actually grabbed Chris and said, no. I said, mate, we can have our issues with Plough. We can hate the bloke, do whatever it is, but as players, mate, you don't have any rights to tell the coach to fucking hand in his resignation. I said, so it's not happening. And he goes, oh, well, the meeting's going on now. And then I said, well, come with me. So we went down, we went and spoke to Craig Cameron, had a chat and said to Craig, mate, he's not saying that. I said, you're stitching him up, you're going to put him in a position that's going to fuck him. I said, he's not saying that. So then from that, Plough stuck his head out and said, righto, you blokes come in and have this meeting. Craig's looked at me. I said, well, I'm getting the arse. I said, so might as well I'll tell him he's a shit coach, let's go. And I said, we'll go in from there. And I said to Chris, don't fucking ask for his resignation. I said, you have no right. So I remember we went in and we brought up a whole, like Chris was trying to be political about it and speak in a way that he wasn't going to upset Plough. So I remember I just stopped and said, Chris, so I said, Plough, I said, look, I threw the board and honestly said to Plough, the board's asked him to do something. I said, which he's got no right to, and it's got nothing to do with us. I said, mate, as players, we won't ask for you to resign. You made a comment a long time ago that if you ever lost the respect from the playing group... And
you felt that. That's what I thought. Yeah.
You wanted us to tell you. So I said, Chris, he's happy to tell you that. And I said, mate, and I'll tell you straight up, you're just a fucking shit coach. I said, you promise the world, you do this. Mate, everyone here at the moment doesn't know whether they're getting a game, they're not getting a game, what we're doing this week, next week. I said, players are getting a game because you're trying to save your fucking ass. I said, mate, tell me I'm not going to play again after round 6. I said, you go fuck yourself. And really turned. And the funny thing was, after that, Plough actually stood up and shook my hand. And I looked at him and he goes, well, it's about time someone actually told me the truth of what they really think rather than have all these meetings that you don't think I know about. So he had known there was a lot that had happened. And I said, well, mate, as a playing group, I said, as long as you're here, we play for the jumper, we play for one another. I said, mate, I can't stand you. I said, but if I get a game, I said, I'll play for the players and the jumper. I said, so nothing changes. And then all the way up to his last game, I think we won, actually, the last game he coached.
That was his 500th game against the Dogs.
We actually won that game, right? So even though the players thought the way they did of him and all the rest, it's not like they stopped playing, right? It was just a fucking schmozzle the way it all happened. But the odd thing was there was only the three of us in that meeting. And I remember next day I woke up. I'm like, I'm fucking fresh as a daisy. I was wrapped, got off my chest. I'm like, good. I opened my door. I kid you not, it would have been 30, 40 cameras, cars, fuck everything out the front of my house. Video camera. I'm sitting there, what the fuck's happened here? And then they're like, Jake, did you tell Plough he had to resign or else? It's like, what the fuck? Shut me door. I've shit bricks. I'm like, what's going on? I'd turn my phone on. I had a lot of mates that would ring me all hours of the night, so I'd turn my phone off of a night time. I turned the phone on, and I had about, I reckon, 15 missed calls from Craig Cameron saying, mate, call me as soon as you get this, call me. And I was like, right. So I said, mate, what the fuck's going on? He goes, you need to get into the club, but you need to come through, was it Brunton? Is it Brunton Avenue?
Yeah.
So then got in my garage, got in the car, reversed my car out, and they wouldn't move. I'm like, fuck this. And I had a...
Is that your black SS ute?
I had this SS ute. It'd been all done up. So I've revved it. Nah. Next thing you know, I put it in reverse, and all I remember is feeling, boom, boom. It's like, fuck was that? So then I kept going. It's like, steering wheel's gone. I fucking ran over a cameraman. So, kid you not. I'm like, shit. So then get out. By this stage, everyone's got right out the way. So I've fanged it to the club. I remember parking my car on Brunton Avenue, rang Craig. So they come, I left my keys in it. They come and grabbed me keys because I went through the merchandise shop. Got in, walked up to Newey, and I was going to kill him. Because
you thought he'd leaked it?
Yeah, there was only three of us, and I thought it was him.
Newey's not that bad.
And then Newey's tearing up, and he's like, mate, they're at my house too. I said, well, okay. And then I remember looking down the hallway, and Plough's come walking in. I'm like, fuck this. So I've gone walking towards him. I remember opening his door, went off my head. I actually went to grab him. I was going to fucking kill him. And then Newey, Kane Johnson grabbed me and said, don't. And I've looked, and then Craig Cameron's come in. So the boys actually grabbed me because I was fuming. And then I didn't speak to Plough, didn't go into his office, didn't do anything. The club actually sent me away for 2 weeks. So I remember they kicked me out the club and said, go away. So I went to Bali for a couple of weeks just to get away from it all. And then when I come back, it was still all going. I remember I sat down with Craig Cameron, and Craig turned around, and it was, I think he did it just to make me a little bit happier, to settle me down a lot, because I was ready to either punch the shit out of Plough and leave. And that was, my mindset was, if I'm going out like this, then I'm going out the way that I knew all the boys from where I grew up and that would be proud of me, because I'm about to walk away from AFL and corporate. So I might as well get my name the way it was back at North Heidelberg. So my head was just belt him and leave. And then when Craig sat me down, he actually said, mate, look, Plough's coming up to, it was around 15 or 16 or something. It's going to be his 500th game as player and coach. He's going to do that game and then he's gone. Keep your mouth shut, go and play at the VFL at Coburg, it was still Coburg at the time.
Yep.
Go and play there. If you keep your mouth shut, play there, right, the door's not closed. Because he, obviously, Plough going, Craig was still there, Blair Hartley, I think, not Blair.
Blair wasn't.
Who was it Matt? One of the recruiting guys, but they still said, look, we want to give him a crack, right? It's not fair, everything that's happened. So they, behind closed doors, actually said, don't do anything silly. The moment Plough's gone, we will play you the first week that he's gone. Right, so then...
So straight out of Bali, straight onto the MCG.
Pretty much. So it was like, go and prove yourself that you can play, get to the end of the year. And then the odd thing was, with all the shit that had happened, I think 4 games, played the 4, there was a couple left. Craig come up and said, right, here's another 12 months. We'll sign you up. Dimmer then comes along, and I remember I was cleaning out the locker because we're walking away, and Dimmer's rocked up. This is when he was coaching. And then it was funny because the first time I actually met him, he goes, "Oh, mate, how are you?" I said, "Yeah, good." And he goes, "Mate, thank you for everything you've done for this club, and, I wish you all the best." And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, "You cleaning your locker? Are you gone?" I said, "Nah." He goes, "Oh, I thought we delisted you." I'm like, "Yep, nah, fuck, we've got another one." I'm like, "Great, this is going to be a fucking great start." So that was my first interaction with Dimmer. I was like, here we go. So I think that probably has a bit to do with why I never thought I was fucking going to get a game, and it took me 6 years. But so it was one thing after another. But the funny thing was, I actually spoke to Plough, I reckon probably about 3-4 years ago. And actually, it might have been a bit longer. There was something that dropped. You hold on to things, and then every now and then, as you get older, you'll realise it's easier to just let it go. When Carlton were going through almost a similar thing with Mick Malthouse, right? I remember watching some of the games that Carlton were playing, and it was odd because some of the comments the players were making in regards to we don't want him whether it's him as coach, right? We're looking for something else, or they had actually given up on him. And it was funny because I remember the way that we played, whether we liked it or not, the outside world didn't know how us players felt or anything towards Plough. And I think playing for one another and then knowing all the shit, we had to lean on ourselves and each other to actually get up and get amongst it. And I remember when watching that, I was actually rapt to be a part of all the players. I was rapt that I was still there, being able to see it all, and so grateful for all the boys because they were the ones supporting, pick me up. Had they let me go, I wouldn't be there. And then I remember I bumped into Plough and had a chat, and out of everything, I actually asked him and said, "Mate, with all the shit that happened in that last year," and he apologised. He actually apologised for everything and for what had done. He said that he was pissed that night and made some phone calls and just was hurt. And I said, "Yeah, okay." But then he actually said thank you because it was funny. He realised the same thing that I'd just been realising with the Carlton game. He goes, "Thank you." And when I said, "What for?" He goes, "Your boys never actually stopped playing." He goes, "I'm so happy watching that everything we went through is the same thing as what Carlton's going through, but we didn't show what they were showing." And he actually said thank you then and there, and it was like, you know what, shake hands and went our own ways, and we've spoken ever since, but it was just, very bizarre and, odd scenario at the time. So
fucking unbelievable, mate. That's one of the most genuinely unbelievable stories I've ever heard.
Well, mate, it was hard living it. It was a genuinely challenging time, and we're a lot of younger blokes in that. So we had some senior heads, Richo and Shugs and all those boys, but we're largely a small, inexperienced group and not really knowing how. And I think that's probably part of the reason why we did continue to just play, because it was like, well, got a bunch of blokes that are probably either out of contract or they're trying to prove themselves.
It's very easy though to. I've been in those clubs when you were talking about that Carlton period. I was there, right? And I look back now and I think nearly in a similar position of in and out of a team. What the fuck's going to happen next? All those situations, and I think there's two ways you can go. Not to get too philosophical on this, is you just fall away with the crowd and you just agree and you complain and you bitch and you moan. Or you did what you did and you fucking go, you know what, these are my values, I'm going to stick by them and fuck this bloke or fuck what's going on. It's very impressive to be able to do that. That's something that I've actually learned from that age, being I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that actually does that, what it was. Have you always had that, do you think? Or has it been something you've taught from, you were saying before about your mates I
think growing up the way I did, it's always been there. So I was playing senior football at 15 years of age, right? The club that I was at was the toughest club you could play at. We'd beat other teams before the game had even started, and it was just because I was playing at North Heidelberg. We'd play games, you'd go out. We'd had games where I remember one game, there was two players pulled a gun on one another off the field while we were playing. And they were two of my teammates because one of them slept with the other one's missus. I remember the guns going off. Stepdad looked at me, goes, "Go and tell them to fuck off." I'm like, righto. So during the game, when gunshots have gone off, playing against Northcote Park, I've walked over to the scoreboard where these boys are carrying off, trying to shoot one another, grabbed one of the guns, like, hey, fuck off. We're trying to play football. Everyone's looked at me and I've got this gun, literally thrown it to the runner. And then they've looked and they're like, what's going on?
How old are you at this stage?
I was 15. So, so when that one happened, I was probably 18. Yeah. I started when I was 15. But that was, normally we had guys with samurai swords run across the ground trying to fucking hit someone with a sword.
Jeez,
but it was ridiculous. Games got called off, I reckon once a month, whether it was all in brawls, crowd, players, a whole lot. So it was really odd. But it was normal, and it was as silly as this sounds. Like you'd have an incident, it was like, come on, just get on with it. Fucking, we've got a game to play. So even though it was local football, these boys, that was the best they were going to achieve. So in their eyes, they wanted to be the best local footballers going around, and they wanted people to recognise them, know who they were, walking down the street at local football level. So they had that mentality when I was there. And it was odd because even though I said my little brother wasn't allowed to play at North Heidelberg, we didn't want him there. We said, no, you can go and play at a normal club, right? Kids, we'd have kids coming through and you're at 18 getting told, protect these kids, but the kids are like 19, 20 who are new coming to the club. So it was one of them things at a young age you got taught to look after one another, but just get on with things. There was no dwelling on it. There was, no matter how hard it was, no matter how tough someone had it, we had people, commission houses, sleeping on the streets and sleeping in a car. But they rocked up, play football. If you're there to play football, you got judged just as a footballer, nothing else. So do your thing, do what's right for the team, and if you want to fuck up, go and do that later on. So it was taught early, but it was the best fun that I'd ever had. So for me, some people look at it and go, it's not right. I look back and go, fuck, I wish I could do it again. So
is this where you got connected with like the boys from the motorbike groups and that?
Yeah, it was all through it. It was funny, and even throughout football. So I got mates or friends that I grew up with and went to school with become presidents of clubs and of bikie clubs or joined bikie clubs, and every second person I knew just about was part of it, and it was normal. So odd thing for me is people always, and I know it's glass half full, glass half empty, but my looks on life is if I know you as an individual and you're a nice person and I've got kids, if you're having lunch with me, coffee with me, kids, and we go for dinner, well then if I trust you around me kids, then I trust you as a person. Don't care about the shit that you've done or the background. It's like, well, if you've been nice to me, well, then class as a friend. And growing up through all of that, it's funny because people looked when I was playing football, and whether it was Toby or whether it was Gatto or whether it was someone like that, they would look now and go, oh, well, he's out having coffee. It's like, yeah, fucking, it's 12 o'clock in the day. I'm sitting in Richmond having a coffee. What do you think we're going to do? I'm like, they're normal people. They're allowed to have lunch. They're going to have coffee. And it was odd because the AFL looked at it and thought that it was a bad thing and not a good look.
It scared the shit out of me. I'm warming up and I see Toby come into the rooms, tatted up. He's got the skinhead. Mr. Mitchell. It's you, mate. Yeah,
but I think it tells, like, it's a really interesting, you know, and this is why storytelling is amazing, right? Like, we're sitting here today talking about this stuff, to hear from where you've come from, like, your values from chatting with you for 40 minutes, you can already see what they are. It's about loyalty. It's about, you know, not leaving blokes behind, being true to your mates. And
mate, couldn't speak more highly of the bloke that he is.
But it's also like if you don't know that, and then you just see a bloke that's come...
Don't judge the exterior, judge what's on the inside.
Yeah, but you just see him then hanging out with these guys, you think, oh, you're just doing this to be in the AFL and hang around. It's like, no, mate, this is just being...
These are his mates.
These are mates.
Yeah.
These are just people. Yeah.
Well,
it was good for me, though, because it made me feel that tough. I was just like, I know Jake. Don't touch me, I know Jake.
They love Brett.
No, in case they wanted to bash me for what they thought of me.
It's one of them things. When I was getting drafted, it's funny, I tried to do the right thing. So I'm going to separate. So you got people who wear a suit, and this is the mindset. You got people who wear a suit, and you got people who dress like I did, right? So tracksuit pants, runners.
Horrific dress sense.
So when I was trying to get drafted, I had no one to help. I didn't know where to start. Went down to the Knights, lasted 3 or 4 games, got kicked out of there. Then from that point, our mindset was if you don't get drafted under 18s football, you're done. There's no getting drafted. So then it was odd when Sheedy come and approached me. I went down to Essendon, and then even then, still didn't know how to handle who to talk to, who to get advice from. Reached out to a mate of mine who he actually reached out to a couple of player agents and said, look, can you help this kid? Everyone, I think there was 6 of them, without naming them, said no, straight away. Not a hope in hell. I then spoke to Barnesy, because he was at Essendon at the time, and he said, mate, make a DVD. So then him and Sheedy even made a DVD. So they made one of Daniel Kerr, Cousins, had Andrew McLeod, and there was one more. I reckon I'll just have the DVD somewhere. But they actually said, right, watch this, watch how they play. They're backline midfield, so if you're going to play, you need to actually start mimicking this. And they've got confidence to make decisions, even though it's going against game plan. They're making decisions. If it comes off, then you'll be patted on the back. If it doesn't come off, you'll be labelled as a shit kick and a bad decision maker. So make sure you get it right. So I started watching those videos, trying to get people to help. I then made videos, highlights of myself, tried to see if anyone would help. No one would. And then I got put on to, someone put me on to Glenn Archer, and then got hold of Tom Petroro, and then had a chat with them. And then Arch was the one who vouched for me. So Tommy said, yeah, I'll see what we can do. And it was funny because even when Sheedy said go to VFL and have a crack, I remember I was talking with Toby and a few other boys at the time, and they actually sat me down and abused the shit out of me and said, what am I doing? So what do you mean? And they go, mate, they've said go and do this. And now understand, they don't understand the cutthroats of trades, drafts, period, like getting recruited, all the rest of it. And said, mate, VFL at the time, players get treated like shit, right? So they don't get a game. The AFL players are getting the game before the VFL boys, so it makes it hard. So it's near on impossible. At the time, it was the Bull Ants that I had to look at when I was 19, 20, because I hadn't heard of Coburg even back then. And then the stories you'd heard about trying to make it at the Bull Ants, you're in or you're not. And I was never in from the word go, no matter where I went. So then my mindset was, not doing it, because I guess inside as well, I kept getting told I had a brother that was a better footballer than me, who was older by 12 months, should have, could have, but didn't. If he wasn't going to make it, you're not going to make it. So kept hearing this, and then kept hearing bad temper and all the rest of it. And this is going to sound a little bit silly, but I kept trying to hold that temper in to a point where I didn't want to hear it again, because if I heard it again, I was worried I was going to beat the shit out of someone because I was done hearing it. But then that just proved the point that I had a bad temper. So I kept trying not to. I remember sitting down with the boys, and they said, mate, if you think you want to be a part of the streets of Melbourne and all the rest of it, if you want to run Melbourne, you can run Melbourne. You can do whatever you want to do. But if you don't give football a crack now, you'll never give football a crack ever. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, fucking you blokes know jack shit, rah, rah, rah. And then they kept going at me to the point where they were getting the shits and didn't understand why I wasn't trying. I'm like, no, I am trying. But they couldn't get it. They couldn't get it through. And at the end, 2 of them got up and said, you're a fucking idiot, and rah, 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 and walked off. And I started to get the shit with them, and another one sat down. And I remember talking to, it was an uncle of mine who was at this meeting, and he goes, mate, we all think that you can play, but you're inside your own head. Everyone keeps saying your brother's better. Well, your brother was better, but you may now be better. Everyone said you got a bad temper. Well, you do, because you're arrogant. You fucking hit everyone all the time. So stop hitting people. I'm like, okay. And he's like, go and play VFL. He goes, mate, give it one crack. If you don't make it, come back. Do what we're doing. Go the pathway you're going. But they were the ones who went out of their way to sit me down and say, fucking do it. Yeah. The people who should have said that didn't. The people who should have actually been sitting me down saying, we need you to do this, we think you should try this, give this a chance, they were nowhere to be seen. And then when I do get drafted and I do start playing, all of a sudden the people who should have been there are now saying, You can't hang around them. You can't see them. So my mentality is go fuck yourself. Football's not going to be there forever. They will be. So then throughout my career, I never defended it. So I'd never had social media. When any of the stories were written, I never voiced my opinion or told my side about it. So then it was funny. They just thought I was being arrogant and rubbing it in everyone's face. But the odd thing was the club had no problem with it. The club just turned to me and said, don't get any of the boys involved in anything that they shouldn't be. Don't put any of the boys in harm's way. And the club trusted me enough that they would let me do what I want, because at the end of the day, I wasn't breaking the law. I wasn't going against our contracts. I wasn't doing anything illegal. So they looked at it and said, it's just noise from the outside world. Do what you need to do, but just don't be a dickhead. So they were supportive.
How is all, like, the story is amazing, isn't it? It's like a story of hard work, drive, kind of your own values. How is all that? And I think what's lost a little bit is, how they talk about, trailblazers of mature age. He actually got in before.
We always talk about Mick being the trailblazer.
Pod's Barlow. Jake King jumps in well before, and rightfully so. But the drive and the effort and commitment you had to show to get the opportunity and then have the career you did, we've touched on it a little bit, but how has that helped you transition now into post-football, family, work, and what you're doing now?
Massive. People... It's funny, my staff members hate when I'll try and explain something and it's habit, but you'll go back to saying, right, when we were playing football, we did this. And you'll tell a story and they'll look and go, oh, fuck, here's a football story. It's not about a football story, right? It's actually about working together as a team. It's actually making sure that you don't have to like the person, but you respect them. You may not go for coffees and dinner with the person, but when you rock up at work, right, you're working between 8 till 4. When you're at work, you respect them. They've got morals, their beliefs. We have things that we need to do as a group, and then get it done. And then after work, fuck off. Don't talk to them. Don't do anything. But then there's a lot of leadership stuff with football. Had I have not played football, it would have been different. I think I would have gotten there eventually to maturing, developing, but I think football fast-tracked that by a long shot. And then it's brought it now, the people you meet, things that I do. Like my business partner was my first player sponsor. So 2007, he was my player sponsor, and now he's a business partner, and we've got a good business together. So
Which is
Cameron Deutsch. He's the business partner.
Fantry Gully.
Hyundai Care. And also where you're working now.
So working at the Touring Hub now, it's caravans and cars there.
Who would have thought the plumber, the back pocket plumber, to now be selling caravans and own his own business or run the business out there? Whereabouts is it out in
Epping. So, our Cooper Street, Epping.
Yep.
So what do you do? You got caravans, like you buy caravans?
Yeah, so it's got a dealership out there, so caravan dealership.
Yeah.
But then just put used cars out there as well, so it's a used cars dealership as well. And then Cam's got, as Brady said, Ferntree Gully, Hyundai, Kia, Mitsubishi, auto sales. So between CD Motor Group, the company itself, I think there's about 230 staff.
Yeah, it's huge. I actually met Cam back in the day because I was telling Brett this. We had a Hyundai deal.
Yep.
Yeah, and he was a big Richmond fan.
Yep.
And they sponsored Carlton. And it was like they had an X amount of cars they had to give like players. And one year it was my go to get a car, but I think he disliked Richmond too much. He didn't really
You didn't get a car?
No, I got the car. And he was an absolute champion, but I think if I had played for Richmond, I might be in the business with the boys. I'd still be in the I'd still have a car. But, I think it broke him that I was playing at Carlton. He's like he just loved his Tigers, but very very good man, incredible businessman.
Yeah, he's very savvy. Yeah.
Mate, I could literally sit here forever and tell these yarns, but I'm sure we've all got other. I actually don't have anything to do, but I'm sure you've got other things to do. Cannot thank you enough for your time today, mate. Genuinely incredible story. I think there's a lot of laughs in there, but just congratulations for everything you've achieved, and to from what you were saying, from getting from North Heidelberg, all those times people saying no, to achieving what you have. It's an unbelievable story, and it's one, Mick, genuinely you got to talk to your young boys about, because not a lot of them do it fucking hard as
a few of those North Heidelberg stories, I don't reckon many of the players nowadays would have seen.
Well, even just getting said no to, like it.
And also drawing back to your own not looking for the silver bullet from or the people to tell you, what you want to hear. It's like actually go deeper into exactly, why you're doing something and where you want to get to and how it's going to happen.
One other thing too that I love the most was when, and I'm like, as you said, business, footy, same thing. I do the same thing with the guys all the time because you relate it to what you know. Mm-hmm. And the conversation that you had with Plough and everyone's having these meetings offside and no one wants to talk to him. And then you just go, look, mate, here's the cold hard facts. Yeah. Bang, bang, bang. And that's what you want. Sorry, it's hard for you to say that, but that's exactly what that other person wants, is just to be hit between the eyes. And it's like, fuck, wish I knew that fucking 3 weeks ago. It would have been so much easier to just, the fear of the unknown versus just getting told it is 10 times better than anything. So
expect some cameras out the front of your house, mate, because you've just dropped that story and this is going to go viral.
I know how to handle them now.
Yeah, you'd be
just
sweet.
run them over.
Yeah. Put it in drive, not reverse. Just 4-wheel drive. Yeah.
Just run
Speed arms. Hey, great stuff, mate. We'll have the link in the show notes, everything as well you're doing. And can't thank you enough for your time. You're a star.
No, thanks for having me. It's been good.
Terrific stuff. Any Brett stories before you finish? Any one of your favourites?
One of my favourites.
Yeah, honesty, mate. It's your best attribute.
I can tell you one, right, that...
As long as it doesn't incriminate me, I'm happy.
Nah, so there was one. Bretty... So at a club, I'm not sure what you boys did, and I still remember this. For the first time, I genuinely felt sorry for him.
Jesus.
I think they went a bit too far on something, but I'll never forget this one, that play 100 of... I don't even think you get a video at 50 games. When you play 50 games, you get a pat on the back. Yeah. You play 100 games.
Wouldn't know.
They make a video for you. Play 150 games.
Membership.
There's life membership. There's nothing. 200 games. There's another video. I remember I was lucky enough. Brady played 150 games.
Fastest to do it, mind you. We had just add that in.
Yep. We had a big presentation. They did the video and. It was, I think, how many games you play without getting injured?
140, I think.
Yeah, so he did really well. And I remember Walker and I think Richo was behind a few of the boys.
Dimmer was a part of it, yeah.
So doing this video. And the best part was the video was just me, all about me.
Low lights.
So,
it wasn't highlights, it was low lights.
Every mistake, every
missed kicks.
that he had done.
Wouldn't be many edits to that, though.
It was a short video.
It went for about 2 minutes. I think they've got every single one of them. And then I think, did it even finish? We got shits and walked out.
Yeah, walked out.
So, in his own little video that the boys had prepared, got the shits, told him to get fucked and
walked out.
And I swear you could hear a pin drop. And then all of a sudden everyone just erupted. Everyone just fucking cheered and erupted and poor Brady was fucking out of there. I'd never seen anyone so broken-hearted
nearly left
before.
Nearly left the club.
Yeah.
Is that when you started exploring Geelong?
Yeah. And I don't reckon my mum's ever forgiven him for it either.
Was she in there?
No, mum wasn't in there, but I told her about it. And
Of course.
Like,
You got to tell mum.
She goes, well, I was bloody proud life member, and I'm thinking, this would be nice.
Club will start to respect me.
Yeah. Jamming up your ass.
I'd sit now. I didn't even know it was happening. And then as it started, when you know his personality and you know him, I just went, look, I'm like,
don't worry, I'll let Dimmer and Walker and all them know. I said, that's the most disrespectful thing you've ever done. And that's shit house.
What did you say? What did you just walk in and go, that was shit?
Yeah, I said, that's shit house. I said, you've just made me feel that small at the moment. So
no, that is fair.
Fuck you. So my 200th one was bloody good.
The one thing I do love about Brett is a little bit like yourself. He's very direct.
Yeah.
But he's gotten a lot better at taking shit. He's gotten a lot better at it.
He's 1,000 times better. And so,
you know where, Brett, I reckon I've actually helped you the most. I reckon when...
Okay.
No, not really. But like at the Giants, right? When we got to the Giants, because I came from Carlton, and that I nearly had borderline fucking couldn't walk around without someone bagging the shit out of you. It was probably similar to Richmond. Got to the Giants, and no, they didn't like. There was no real banter. And I remember I started calling him Brettles. Like that's his nickname that I call him. You could hear a pin drop. It was like no one had ever not called him Sir Brett Deledio in that place until...
Or just Lids.
Or just... No, I don't think he even liked that. He liked Sir Brett.
So,
He's come along...
That's the
This is... I know we said we're allowed to say things about him, but it's funny. When I walked away from this club, with every memory, every person that you ever speak to and whatnot. I reckon there's probably 5 that I could pick up a phone and ring and would either answer or ring you straight back, right? Hats off to him. He is actually one of those. Even throughout our whole career being chalk and cheese, I don't think there was ever a time Brady and I didn't get along, right? We may have disagreed on a lot of things, but there was never a time that we didn't get along. And the odd thing with it, I used to get really shitty when people would make a comment about him. And when we'd play, if someone's tagged him or doing so, I'd even say, just fucking run past, just fucking come near me. And then I said, I'll hit him as you're running past, just every time. But it's funny you make that comment because when people would say it and say, what's he like? And you'd start actually talking about it and they'd actually be shocked. And there was a lady at the club, I won't say her name, but I reckon you'll pick it up. There was a lady at the club who actually said to me, within the last 12 months, that they actually couldn't stand him. I said, what are you talking about? And she goes, oh, he was so rude, he was this. And I said, why? I said, what did he do? Oh, it's just the way he would walk around. And I'm like, so he hasn't said anything? No, he didn't do anything. No. I said, well, go and fucking talk to him. I said, because I don't think that's right. And I said, you're talking about someone who was here for a very long time. There's difference of opinion. So she come up and she spoke to you about it not all that long ago and had a chat. And apparently he's turned around and said, oh, well, if that's how it was, I'm really sorry. I didn't realise that way. I apologise if I offended you or hurt you. And it was bizarre because he is as honest as they come and probably too honest, and he says things probably can be a little bit blunt, right? But it was funny that it was straight away that lady actually rang me that night and said, Jake, I spoke to Brett and I said, yeah. She goes, I want to invite him to this function. I want to do this. I want him to come here. And do you reckon he'll talk at this event? And I said, where'd this come from? And she goes, oh, he said sorry. I said, yeah, and she turned around and she goes, oh, I've spoken to so many of these players and they won't say sorry. And Brett was actually offended that she thought he was a shit bloke. And next thing you know, by just simply saying sorry, the bloke's become the best bloke in the world.
Do you speak at the events?
Yeah, I've done a lot of
for
events.
a small fee.
Small fee. Yeah,
Yeah, it's always
for the love of the club, mate.
No, Brett's he's
but
a
his
great
honesty
man.
is something
It's
seen
actually,
before.
I do admire the honesty as well.
Yeah,
I'm actually an
100%.
introvert, boys. I'm not extroverted. It might put on a brave face.
No,
but
no.
that's why I would walk around quietly because it's like
Yeah.
I'm actually deep in here
Yeah,
thinking about the
100%.
people I
But
don't want to talk
I'm
to.
happy people are getting to see it now. It's actually good.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. I didn't realise I was getting a 360 feedback
No,
session.
well,
That's-
it wasn't
I think
planned.
we
but I
really
enjoyed it.
need hands on that DVD of the 150th.
There's one point as well where Kingy pointed to me and Brett about like what it was like in a footy club. Do you remember Mick actually played
Yeah,
footy as well?
100%.
No, I was just making sure you actually knew he played. Just 'cause-
definitely.
Okay,
Yes.
good.
I appreciate it.
Because like when us three were getting deep into some footy chat, and you were.
Well, I think we can relate
he
more
thought
than
was the
you
host.
two, you two boys anyway,
Yeah.
can't we?
I-
So
Well-
what draft pick were you?
62.
What were you?
One. Yeah.
How
I
old?
was the rookie, 20. Well, people do think it was 28, but I was 21.
Just looked 28. So we'd relate more than what you blokes
very
would.
true.
Exactly.
You never do it the
you
hard
never
way.
break your leg?
Did I?
No. Ah,
Co-
okay.
Coburg, Piranha Park, those type of stories,
Yeah,
just
okay.
the nostalgia of it.
Yeah, very good. Boys, one of the best, I'm going to say the best episode of Footy Friends we've ever had. So,
It was
good
good.
on you, boys. Good
Are
stuff.
we? Is that a bow tie on the year, or we keep rolling?
We're going to have a bow tie on the year, but we're coming back for the draft. So, what date's that, Brett? To 20...
We're going to do it on the 18th.
18th.
The
We'll
Monday,
probably
the
do
18th.
two. So, we'll do a pre-draft show and a post-draft show as well.
Sounds good.
Done. Thank
Great
you
work.
very much. Cheers.
Easy.